Nice that you are watching this video. In this video we continue about the album The Tortured Poets Department of Taylor Swift. Upon release, The Tortured Poets Department divided music critics. Secondary sources described the critical consensus as either positive or mixed. According to the review aggregator Metacritic, The Tortured Poets Department received generally favorable reviews, based on a weighted average score of 76 out of 100 from 24 critic scores. Its second part, the anthology, scored 69 from 6 critic scores on the website. A number of critics regarded the album a landmark in Swift's discography. Reviews from The Independent's Helen Brown, The Arts Desk's Ellie Roberts, The Times' Dan Cairns, Pop Matters's Jeffrey Davies, and Will Harris of Q praised the album as one of Swift's most solid outputs, considering the musical composition, vocal stylings and lyrical tonality as ambitious and tastefully experimental. Others, including Variety's Chris Willman, The Eye's Ed Power, and The Observer's Kitty Empire, called it a quintessential Swift album containing some of the best songs of her career. Swift's songwriting was a source of compliment. The line of Best Fits Paul Bridgewater dubbed it her most cohesive body of work to date, finding the music sophisticated and the lyricism symbolic. To Ludovic Hunter Tilney of the Financial Times, the album is a stylistic evolution for Swift, with writing that marks a characteristically appealing turn into moody melodrama. Alexis Petridis of The Guardian and Alex Hopper of American Songwriter thought that the album has Swift's wittiest lyrics, featuring nuanced musical choices that show Swift is willing to take risks in a risk-averse era for pop, and constantly evolving and pushing her limits, respectively. In a more measured review, Olivia Horn of Pitchfork felt the lyrics did not distill an overarching emotional truth, tending to smother rather than sting. Others, such as the New York Times' Lindsay Zoladz, Slant Magazine's Jonathan Keefe, and Exclaim's Alex Hudson, described some lyrics as weak and overwritten. Hudson claimed that many of its tracks mistake verbosity for poetry. The tumultuous mood and unconstrained emotion of the lyrics were also highlighted. Multiple reviews complimented the album's heavy, unfiltered emotion. Clash's Lauren Webb described it as a spellbinding, toxic, chaotic illustration of deteriorating mental sanity. Powers opined that The Tortured Poets Department shows Swift's newfound freedom, with a lack of concern about whether these songs speak to and for anyone but herself. In a similar perspective, rave reviews from Rolling Stone's Rob Sheffield and Variety's Chris Willman described the album as Swift's gloriously chaotic and audacious, transfixing project, respectively. To Willman, the album combines cleverness with catharsis. Consequences. Mary Siroki, on the other hand, found this style of lyricism jarring and outright bizarre at times, and felt the album was an attempt at self-parody rather than a showcase of Swift's songwriting acumen. Many critics, including Zoladz, NME's Laura Malloy, and Stereogram's Tom Bryan, argued that Swift and Antonoff's collaboration on The Tortured Poets Department was uninventive due to a sonic similarity to their past collaborations. The New Yorker's Amanda Petrusic rather favored Desner's input to the album as gentler, more tender, and more surprising. Horn and the BBC's Mark Savage felt the melodies were sonically monotonous and staid, but others argued that the minimalistic approach complemented Swift's hyper-personal lyrics. Hopper opined that Swift's confidence as an artist is at a peak with The Tortured Poets Department, according to Mary Kate Carr of the AV Club. The album is perfectly good, but arrived at a time when Swift has nothing to prove anymore, resulting in a stagnant point in her artistry. This idea was shared by an anonymous negative paste review that criticized the album as rushed, hollow, and unrelatable. Various peer journalists and columnists cross-examined the album's critical reception. Publications considered the Tortured Poets Department a polarizing album. The Ringer's Nathan Hubbard deemed it Swift's most controversial release since Reputation, 2017. Journalists from the New York Times and Vox attributed this phenomenon to Swift's heightened fame and associated media overexposure between 2020 and 2024, including 8 album releases. The influential Eras Tour, and her relationship with Travis Kelce broke an anchor. Paste's anonymous review was singled out by other publications as scathing. Nima Kandangwa of the South China Morning Post opined that they hid their reviewer's identity because Swifties can become quite spirited when it comes to protecting their favorite singer. The album's Pitchfork score is Swift's lowest from the website. Sputnik Music published reviews with 3 different ratings in a short period of time, each lower than the one before. Min Ang of L'Official found this to be a confusing way to rate music. Swift shared the album's positive reviews on her social media, tagging the respective authors, which some considered as a response to Paste and other unfavorable reviews. A number of commentators opined that the initial reviews demonstrated a flawed approach of mainstream music criticism. Bloomberg News' Jessica Karl wrote that the lengthy duration of the album made the reviewers up until dawn to finish listening to an album to publish, contributing to some reviews that were hasty, criticizing both the exclamation-pointed digs at Swift in Paste and the instant classic review by Rolling Stone in The Ringer. Nora Princiotti attributed the polarized reviews to the unexpected double album release, and Nathan Hubbard argued that some cooler than thou critics from sites like The New Yorker, The New York Times, and Paste used Swift's billionaire status to downplay the personal issues she detailed in the album. Karl opined that some reputable publications catered gossip instead of a serious artistic analysis, while Anne highlighted that reviews mentioned aspects of Swift's public image instead of focusing on the music. The New Yorker's Sinead O'Sullivan asserted that Swift's albums contain multiple layers of self-referential lore, writing that the unfavorable reviews were due to critics not taking that into account or not allotting enough listening time. Some early critics of the album recanted and declared they were hasty in reviewing it, as per Slate's Chris Molanphy, who opined it has become a widely agreed point in later critical commentary that the Tortured Poets Department grows on you after more listens. Molanphy stated he liked the album better than he did a week before. CNN's Oliver Darcy said he had judged the Tortured Poets Department quickly, stating that he reviewed it keeping in the mind its mixed critical reception, and found the album overlong and unimpressive in agreement with other critics, but a week later, after spending more time with the 2-hour Sonic Feast, more methodically touring through its subtleties and nuances, I am ready to declare that it is one of Swift's best works yet. Darcy opined that the album cannot be fully digested at the speed of TikTok, and criticized reviewers who do not let music albums marinate, and instead expect instant satisfaction. The Tortured Poets Department broke numerous consumption records, leading The Guardian to comment that it cemented Swift as the biggest pop star this century by many metrics. On Spotify, it became the most pre-saved album of all time, the most streamed album in a single day, surpassing 200 million and then 300 million streams and breaking the all-time record previously held by Swift's Midnights, and the first album to accumulate 1 billion streams in a single week, doing so in 5 days. The album also became the most streamed album in a single day on Amazon Music, and the most streamed pop album in a single day on Apple Music. It amassed 1.76 billion streams globally within its first week of availability, an all-time record. Republic Records reported global first-week consumption of 4 million units. In the United States, the album accumulated 1.6 million album equivalent units in 4 days, selling 700,000 vinyl LPs to break the record for the highest single-week vinyl sales previously held by Swift's 1989, Taylor's Version, 2023. It broke the single-week streaming record previously held by Drake's Scorpion, 2018, amassing 799 million on-demand streams in 6 days. After a full week of availability, the Tortured Poets Department debuted atop the Billboard 200 with 2.61 million units, including 1.914 million pure copies and 891.34 million on-demand streams. It became Swift's 14th #1 album, tying her with Jay-Z for the most chart toppers among soloists. The album also registered the second largest week by overall units and the third largest week by pure sales in Billboard history. The album continued to chart at #1 on the Billboard 200 for 17 total non-consecutive weeks, becoming the longest leading chart topper in Swift's career, and contributed to the #2 peaks of albums such as Billie Eilish's Hit Me Hard and Soft, Vultures 2, and Chappell Roan's The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. It is also the third album in history and first by a female artist to spend its first 12 weeks atop the chart. All 31 songs from the anthology debuted on the Billboard Hot 100, occupying the entire top 14 simultaneously for the first time in chart history. Swift set the record for most simultaneous entries by a female artist and became the first woman to surpass 50 career top 10 songs. By July 2024, the Tortured Poets Department has sold 2.47 million pure sales and accumulated 5.30 million units in the United States. Sales were boosted by multiple variants of the album, with double-digit variants in digital and CD mediums. The album was certified 6 times platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America on November 30, 2024, signifying 6 million certified units. The Tortured Poets Department broke chart records in other countries. In Germany, it recorded the largest streaming day for an album and debuted atop the chart with the highest sales week for an international solo artist in 7 years. In the United Kingdom, it became the fastest-selling album by any artist in 7 years and by a non-British artist in 18 years, and it tied Swift with Madonna for the most female #1 albums on the UK Albums Chart. It became the fastest-selling vinyl album since 1994, and Swift's album with the most weeks at #1, and was the most streamed and best-selling album of the year on the Australian ARIA charts. The Tortured Poets Department became Swift's 13th #1 album, a record among female artists. Its songs set records for the most simultaneous entries by a single artist in the top 10, top 50 and top 100 of the singles chart, debuting atop the Canadian Albums Chart as Swift's 14th consecutive chart topper. The album registered the highest single-week vinyl sales and streaming figures in chart history. 10 tracks from the album debuted on the Billboard Brazil Hot 100. This was the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.